Well, we're going to talk about something controversial today, something that has a lot of confusion over in the church, and that is the law and the believer. And so there's some questions there about just what is the law to the believer? Is the law even valid today? Are we under the law? Who's under the law? What is the law? Well, there's two laws. The first law is a ceremonial law that God gave to the Jews in worshiping Him. They come together to worship Him. They have atonement and they have sacrifices. They pay tithes. And that was given to the Jew before the promise came, before Jesus came. The law actually kept that Jew as close to God as possible so that he wouldn't go into complete debauchery, waiting for the promise that God had made long before. Way back in the garden, He made the promise, and He made it again to Abraham, He made it to Noah, He made it to His saints right down through the ages. So the law is there to keep people who are outside of Christ from debauchery and keep them as close to God as possible. That's the moral law. There's a moral law that the whole world tries to live by. That's what the legal system is all about. If you transgress their moral code, then you're probably going to go to jail or spend a lot of money or do something anyway. The ceremonial law was for the Gentile or for the Jew. The moral law was for everybody. So let's talk about the moral law, the do's and the don'ts. The moral law, according to Timothy, Paul writing Timothy, is made for the sinner, is made for the killer, the murderer, the adulterer, the homosexual, made for everyone who's outside of the rules. The old man in you is under the law. The law will kill you. Paul said the law revived and he died. Therefore, the law is not there to save you. It's not any standard of righteousness whatsoever. It'll destroy you. It'll kill you. Because if you're under the law wins. Every jot and every tittle. See, it's not like man's law. Man's law is arbitrary. You can buy your way out of it. You can't do that with God. His law is absolute. So if you're under the law, then you're a sinner. Sinners are under the law. If you're still a sinner saved by grace, you're under the law, pal. You need to come out of that sinner saved by grace stuff and be a saint. How do I do that? Now, Jesus was never under the law. He was made under the law, but His spirit man was never under the law because He's God. God needs no laws. God can't be tempted with evil. It's the natural man, the old man, that needs the law. So if you're walking in the new man, there is no law to you. There's no law against you. Paul said no one can lay any charge against the Lord's elect. And the elect are those who are in, living in, walking in, displaying Christ in their lives. When you receive Jesus, you received a solid substance life. A life that is pure and holy and is not affected by sin, is not touched or tainted by sin. There is no law against that life. That life is perfect, it's holy, it's harmless, it's pure, it's risen, it's above. So the law is made for the sinner, and it's still effective today for the sinner. But it's not for the saint. It has no rule against the saint, because the saint does not sin. It says in 1 John that it's impossible. You can't sin if you're born of the Spirit, if you're born of the Word. I know that's troublesome for some. I've been preaching this, and I know it's troublesome for some. They want to stay under that law. You want to look at other people and judge other people by what they do or don't do. Have you ever noticed that when we start talking about the law, it's always for them, somebody else? So we look at other people and we judge them by the law. And that's not what God's doing. God looks on the heart. He is looking for Christ. And if Christ is in you, then you walk above the law because you walk above sin. That life is a life of faith. There's a power in righteousness that I'll talk about shortly. Anyway, so I hope that kind of cleared things up for the law and the believer. God bless you. Walk in the blessing today. Bye-bye.